Hey everybody, welcome back to Close Up with Jesus. It's just me today. I'm not. I don't. Every time, guys. Every time I forget I forget to check the number. It's kind of funny. Kind of, but not really. But yeah, it's just me today. Kelton has to study a lot, and he's trying to catch up. We are on episode, believe 25. Yeah, 25. So everybody, back to Close Up with Jesus, episode 25. Uh, and welcome. And we're gonna have a short lesson. It's gonna be about who wrote the Bible, and not necessarily like the author. We know the author is God because God told them exactly what to write. Because if you're here's my view. People say man wrote the Bible. No, God wrote the Bible. God created the universe and everything in it. And I'd be pretty sad to know that if God wanted something written down that he couldn't say, hey, write this down, and if we try to rebel, he wouldn't stop us. That's kind of sad if my God's not that strong. But today we're going to talk about that, about which people wrote specific parts of the Bible, because that can give us context into why it's written certain ways. Like the disciples, they're all written in different points of views, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're all written by different disciples, so it's all in different points of view, and they all enlighten us to different events that happened and events in Jesus' life. It's wonderful. And I have a little flowchart actually that someone made. Overviewbible.com. Thank you for this amazing little chart they made. They broke it down into who wrote what. You can see Paul right here. He wrote a lot of the New Testament. But we're going to start at the beginning, like always, right here. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy were all written by Moses. God told Moses what happened in Genesis and before, because obviously he wasn't alive for some of this. He wasn't alive when Adam and Eve were alive, because he wasn't born yet. So God told him. We actually see that. Actually, this little spot right here with, I was trying to highlight, but I can't highlight it. Genesis through Deuteronomy, written by Moses. A lot of scientists and philosophers have been debating that he may not have written it because, they're going to attack the Bible with all they can, that we know he wrote it. We actually know he wrote it because in John chapter 5, verse 46 through 47, Jesus is talking to his disciples. This is the New Testament. For had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if ye believe not his writings, how shall ye believe my words? So right there, it's talking about, hey, Moses wrote stuff. So Moses wrote parts of the Bible, and we see right there he wrote that. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings puts it as unknown. I don't agree. Because there's another website right here that I found that says, hey, Joshua wrote Joshua, which would make sense. Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, written by Samuel, Nathan, and Gad, between 1900 BC. 1st and 2nd Kings, Jeremiah. This is one right here. This one, you can't trust every site you read. You need to do your own research. And I came up with this idea today, and I really wanted to get it out to you guys because it's really important for context. And we know certain people who wrote certain parts of the Bible. We know for a fact they wrote it. So it's good to know. Like most of Psalms is written by King David, which you can see right there. David wrote 73 of the Psalms, which is really, really impressive. And then right here, we got 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra and Nehemiah, written by Ezra. Esther was written by Mordecai, it says right here. Job, Moses. We see over here, Job is they listed as unknown. I don't know if Moses wrote Job. We can find out. Let's find out, guys. Let's do a little experiment. Who wrote the book of Job? And there's things even like we don't know. We don't know who wrote the book of Job, according to Wikipedia. But we know he was real because he's mentioned in other books of the Bible. So it's interesting. See, you can go down rabbit holes in the Bible and just find so many interesting things and wonderful questions that you find, and you will get answers if you dig deep enough. But unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world, so we can't dig into every single book of who's written by who, how we know that. Yeah. Because we gotta go through all of it, and we have to go through the entire book. If y'all want to see more and really delve into certain parts of the certain books of who wrote them, we can do that. But obviously, I need y'all to comment so I know that you want it. Otherwise, I don't know what y'all want. Let's continue. We were just on Job right here. Psalms, mostly written by King David, and that's who we credit most of it to. If we go over here into the second website, where Psalms, there it is. Psalms, several different authors, mostly David. Again, we credit David with writing the most of them, because he did. We see Proverbs, written by mostly Solomon, but also Agur and Limmel. I can't say I know who all these people are. This one puts it to just Solomon. There's also Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon, which is obviously written by Solomon himself. So Solomon helped write 3 books. Isaiah, written by Isaiah. Jeremiah, written by Jeremiah. Lamentations, also written by Jeremiah. Over here, we see, they said this website says the same thing. Jeremiah and Lamentations. Ezekiel, written by Ezekiel. Makes sense. Daniel by Daniel. Hosea by Hosea. Joel by Joel. Amos? Not sure how you pronounce that. Let's find out. I know I'm doing that. I've done this twice now, but I really want to know. Daggum. I don't want to misspell it. Amos. Oh, it's not going to come through for you guys, I don't think. Let's... What the heck? High definition? That's weird. There we go. Okay. Amos. Okay, Amos. So we know it's by Amos. And then we have Obadiah, who wrote Obadiah, obviously, right here. Then we got Jonah, who wrote Jonah. Micah wrote Micah. Again, another person I can't pronounce. I'm sorry. English is my first language. I don't know many other languages. I want to learn more, but bear with me as I mispronounce some names. Nahum? I don't know. Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah. You notice a lot of the books of the Bible are named after the people who wrote them, which kind of makes sense whenever you are taking their writings and you're trying to put it into one big book. This would make sense. Then we hit the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The disciples, written by Matthew, John, Mark, Luke, John, obviously. Acts says written by Luke. I also have heard. Is that right? I don't want to tell you. It was Luke. Okay, cool. For some reason, I remember somebody telling me a long time ago, and it could have been before they had more evidence, that Paul wrote Acts, and I was like, and this was young me, so I didn't really dispute it, but now I'm like, I'm not sure about that, saying Paul wrote it. Then we go to Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 and 2 Thessalonians, 1 and 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, written by Paul. That's a good chunk of the New Testament entirely written by Paul, which is very interesting, because it shows you that he had a lot to say, and God told him a lot of things. And that's like, what? You could argue it's like, what, half the New Testament written by Paul? That's kind of an important big deal. So, obviously, people who don't want to like the Bible will attack Paul and try to say he didn't write this, or they probably will attack him, just like they attacked Moses, because if they could destroy the beginning, then the rest of this is useless. So they would probably attack this to try and knock out a good portion of the New Testament. But they particularly do want to attack Moses because it is the beginning of the Bible. So it's kind of important that, that we know this is factual, which we do know it's factual. We know he wrote, again, John 5, verse 46 to 47. We know he wrote books, and we know he is mentioned in these books, and that he's mentioned writing things. Moving on into Hebrews. This guy's not sure who wrote it, but if we go over here to the second website, we can find out. Hebrews, unknown, most likely Paul, Luke, Barnabas, or I don't know who this fella is, so let's go find out. Is a first century Alexandrian Jewish Christian mentioned several times in the New Testament. That's right. That's right. He worked with Paul. That's right. I couldn't remember because I don't remember reading about him a ton. There are a lot of names in the Bible, so if I don't recognize certain people, It's because there's a lot of names. Moving on to James, written by James. First and second Peter, written by Peter. First, second, and third. John, written by John. Jude, written by Jude, and Revelation is also written by John. And Revelation's the one that it's really important because if God gave him a vision of the future, right? And it's in Revelations there's talks of like giant beast with metal teeth and excuse me, giant metal birds. Well, what would you call a plane but a giant metal bird, right? If you didn't know what a plane was. And that's why context of who wrote it is important, because we have to remember, hey, this person, he wrote it in around 90 AD, so that's kind of really important to know, because that lets us get a perception through his eyes as to what it could be. Because, if you are seeing basically the end of the world, right, which is kind of what Revelations is, it's the end of the world. How would you describe it to somebody who hasn't seen it and you don't know what to call it? You're going to describe it as a giant metal bird. If you want to describe a tank, you could describe it as a beast with metal teeth, because, the treads on the bottom, and sometimes you have the front with their spikes. But I think it's really cool. And I think this is also a really cool thing. If you want to find the ones I used, you can go to overviewbible.com/authors-who-wrote-the-Bible/. That's where the nice flowchart is, and then the one that looks less nice but is also very, very, very helpful is at gotquestions.org/bible-authors.html. They're both really cool. I found they were helpful. And again, the verse I used today was John chapter 5, verse 46 through 47. Thank you guys for listening and going through this with me. I think it's important to know, because knowledge is power, guys. And the more you know of the Bible, the more equipped you are to fight the devil and stave off the fiery darts that come at you. We will see you guys tomorrow for Brother Ray's class on Wednesdays at 7. Hope to see you all there, and I will meet you all next week, Lord willing. Have a great day, guys.